with this during the day. So again, very much welcome to all of you. Thank you for all of you that have made the effort for traveling from long distances. Thank you for all of you that are coming back to the Metaphorum. I hope that we're going to have a very good time in the next few days. Jon and I are going to just kick out the conversation very briefly, and then we'll start the agenda. I will explain in a minute the agenda, but you all have the agenda electronically. We're going to put the agenda outside, and the idea is that we will have the talks, because not everyone may need to be in every talk. The idea is that you feel yourself whatever you want to be in. There is a lot of space around, coffees and meeting rooms, so the idea is that as well, those of you that don't want to be in a talk and want to have informal meetings, feel free to go and join the backwards and forwards whenever you want, okay? About logistics, anything else, Jan? Jan, you want to say anything else?
Good morning.
All right, okay. Right, so we called the conference this year Control Shift Delete Rebooting Society. We actually took the original idea from a conference that we attended in the United Kingdom earlier this year, in which most of the people working in transition networks, permaculture, and cooperatives and so on, were having a grouping called Control Shift, and the idea was basically how can we, all these movements, get together so that we can have some kind of an impact, because many people are excited to do things to change the world, to improve the situation of the world, but not all the efforts are being effective enough. So we thought, well, why don't we try from the Metaphorum to think what we can do from using cybernetics to contribute to this really urgent need for change, for systemic change in society. So why do we all urgently need to reboot society? Well, as we said in the introduction, this escalating climate change, the escalating massive capitalism, the increases in inequality, the poverty, the escalating risk of wars, the corrupted political systems, technocratic manipulation of the people's will through social media. I mean, there are all these things that are happening, and we believe that we have tools that could be used or could be developed further to contribute somehow very clearly to the urgent needs for change. So it's clear that there is a need for what we call massive systemic change in terms of developing new, more sustainable and more equitable economic models, new business models, new ways of relating to each other through technology, new political systems, new education and research systems. And I think that in the Metaphorum community, not only in the Metaphorum community, but in general in the academic community and consulting community, there have been enormous amount of contributions of people who have been using Stafford Beer's work and developing it further and have contributed in different countries to different ways in many of these issues. So the idea was an invitation to see what this group of people, what can we think together, what is the kind of answers that we can find to these really pressing questions. Germany in particular have shared the vision that we have in our recent book. This is the second edition. It's called A Complexity Approach to Sustainability Theory and Applications. And basically, when we wrote this book, what we did was to put together the way that we understand the Galapagos systems model in terms of sustainability. And our experience, both in Colombia, in England, in different countries in Ireland, on how using the VSM we can inspire self-organized people, sort of changing their organization, changing their communities, doing intentional change towards sustainability. And at that point, when we were writing this book, I was still very optimistic and very sort of dreamy, thinking, no, these ideas are so powerful that we really can inspire change, lots of change, and if this work locally, then these ideas will spread out very quickly. So that was our inspiration. Don't know, 7 years later or something, I have to accept that we have been a little bit naive in many ways, that there is still lots of things that we need to address, and we need to we need to go further, in particular in the political issues, yeah, and the cultural issues. Because I think when Stanford had this vision, very clear vision 50 years ago of what was the kind of thing that was possible, he didn't have the technology, the technological context that we have now. Now we have the technological context, we have the knowledge. And even though we have enormous challenges, because even the same technology has grown up and has become so far and so impressively strong that many times we became slaves of the technology rather than owning these new technologies, artificial intelligence, data analytics, and so on. It's all there. We are all networked. So in theory, we could be self-organized, networked, and produce a massive change. In practical terms, we are still far away from producing this massive change, as we are all aware. Yeah. So that's the question: what else can be done? How can we continue these ideas? How can we further develop this knowledge so that we can contribute more clearly to this social change? In our work, we talk about experiences on the eco-village in Ireland, eco-regional governance in Colombia, supply networks in Mexico. More recently, I've been working about the governance in an Amazon indigenous community in Colombia. We talk a lot about the transition network, the permaculture association, lots of places where we have put these ideas that are potentially transformational, but are still lots of things need to be done. So what's missing? There is no evidence yet of massive systemic change. There are evidence of transformations in specific sectors, businesses, communities, countries, no? Which is hopeful, but still we need something more strong to get further.
1 minute, 20 past.
Okay, this is John will explain the time management system.
Yeah, I'll do it now. We're borrowing a technique from Elinor Ostrom's self-organisation of the commons. And the way the commons quite often work is they divide things up, and the people who are going to benefit from the next slot are the people who police the previous one. So I'm the one who talks Angela next. So when I get on, whoever's on after me, which is
Wolfgang. Yes.
Wolfgang, yeah. Yeah, that's Wolfgang. He polices me. Because there's nothing worse than somebody going on, you're the next slot. Okay, they're going to go on. So that's how we're going to do it.
Okay, that clear? Right. So, urgent need to address political, education, and research systems, and that are now powered mostly by those in power, systematic, disciplinary, competitive-based education. This is something that I'm working a lot, and I would like to see addressed in this conference as well. How can we really deeply change the education system so that the next generation can grow up with a more systemic way of understanding the world, more ethical, more responsible, more sustainable, yeah? And also research. So we have here some people who are going to be talking about these issues. In general, I think that there is a lot of need for transdisciplinary research. We have a lot of BSM-inspired methodologies like Plan, like the RM methodology, Malik's methodology, and so on, the Value Systems approach, the Italians, many new methodologies based on BSM. But there are a lot of other things that are more contemporary, modern, and fashionable that some of you are experts on, like complex artist systems, social network analysis, teal organizations, holocracy, sociocracy, commons governance, canvas, agile systems, blockchain, no? So these new, very fashionable and interesting things, many of them are deeply cybernetics, and we have done some work, John is going to talk about that in explaining the connections between the BSM and these new fashions. But this is a room full of richness that some of us are exploring, and I think that we need to continue exploring. Yeah. So John, it's your turn.
My turn. This is the first time ever.
I finished early.
Something going to wind me up.
So just put it. Yeah.
Does this clip on somewhere?
It does, yeah. And your lip.
It's all right. This is my 10 seconds running out of here. Okay, I've only got 2 slides here. I gave this talk last year, which I thought might be a nice introduction, a bit of continuity for the conference. I went through the VSM and I took a number of perspectives which are absolutely bog ordinary VSM approaches to things and applied them to a society. The first one is that if you look at a number of businesses being coordinated in the sector using the viable systems model, you have a system 3 which is basically about generating synergies, which is about collaboration. And Stafford is absolutely clear about this. The system 3 is about mutual support and collaboration. So we're talking about a collaborative economy rather than a competitive economy. By rethinking the connection between the viable system and the environment and looking at all the things that are affecting everybody every day now, environmental issues become a crucial part of the way that you run any enterprise. Thirdly, the whole model, I think, is most easily expressed as, rather than using control and authority and obedience, you start with autonomous work groups, autonomous workers, autonomous everybody, and then you bring them together. So if you're thinking about autonomy, you're basically talking about unleashing human beings. So rather than a society based on people doing what they're told, you're talking about unleashing people and giving them the space to have their autonomy and their creativity. And one of the things that John Raven points out in his book is that we need massive amounts of new ideas, massive amounts of creativity, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, go. That's right. Yes is one. And this is what the model does. Okay. Next one. I went to a talk on Miles Davis and systems. And when you join Miles Davis's jazz band, you go to this great man and say, "Tell me what to do, sir. I'm the new boy in the band. Tell me what to do." And he always said the same thing. He said, "I want you to surprise and delight me." And I thought this is what every manager who understands the VSM ought to say to his workforce. This is what they want. So these are just a few little snippets. The next slide, if I can get it to work. Yeah, here we are. This is some work I've been doing recently. I'm doing a lot of work with groups like permaculture and transition towns and co-ops and people. And all these new organisational paradigms are starting to come up all over the place. There's little shoots coming out from everywhere. And one of them is Angela Ostrom's work. She has these principles of the organisation of the commons, which go back hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands and thousands of case studies, extraordinary piece of work. And she has these principles of organisation. And in the second edition of the book, I did a whole chapter on looking at the viable system model in the context of the commons. And basically, as with all of these, you say, well, okay, she says this, oh yeah, this is a system 2, this is system 3, these are the interactions between the systems, and it maps onto it beautifully. But there's a few gaps. And Ellen Rosson was very clear in her book that she says this is not a complete theory. These are just my observations about how these things work. So there's Ellen Rosson, sociocracy. Everybody come across sociocracy? It was developed in here, actually, in Holland, wasn't it? It was a Dutch thing. Again, based on the idea of autonomy, the Langu book on teal organisations, this is a book called Reinventing Organisations. And Langu is a journalist, and he came across organisations all over the world in which the bosses, these are all traditional companies with bosses, said to the workforce, okay guys, you're in control. I'm giving you complete control over everything. And then dealing with the consequences. And all of these other systems, and I'm now looking at holocracy, which turns out to be very, very similar. And they're all saying the same thing. They all say, number one, you've got to unleash the people who are responsible for doing the work. And then you design a structure to bring these autonomous, unleashed, independent, creative people together into an organisation. And what you find in all of them is the viable system model is just way ahead. Pretty much everywhere. Is that right, Ian?
Oh, you might very well say that, but I couldn't possibly. That's a big yes.
And I think one of the jobs we've got is to say to people, okay, yeah, this is great. Elinor Ostrom's stuff's great, sociocracy is great, the organisations that Lalou's talking about, holacracy, they're all coming from the same place, but there is a better theory. And we're working with some people in Sweden who've been applying sociocracy, and they're starting to find things that they can't deal with. And we can say, okay, that's because you haven't understood blah blah blah. It all comes out of Stafford's work. So I think there's this extraordinary opportunity we've got. How am I doing?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. With extraordinary opportunity, because I mean, we are on different times, and I think everybody accepts that the way that we've organised for the last few hundred years has started to fail. It's done this extraordinary job to get us as far as we have, with a few little side issues like exploitation and slavery and destruction of the ecosystems. But you know, it's done an amazing job to get us as far as we have. But it's run its course, and it's time for something new. And I think, having looked at all of these, the viable system model is still, for me, the only one that covers all the bases. So that's that one. And then, do you want to do this bit?
Yeah. Well, it's just saying that we're very happy with the response from all of you to the opening question. And we can see that there are really exciting and interesting responses coming from this group.
Sure.
Yeah? So we have about new education and research systems, BSM inspired. Yeah.
It's lucky we're good friends.
We know each other a little bit.
I can't get this into
So just 1 minute. It's just for 1 minute and I'm finishing it. So anyway, we have Wolfgang with his trilogy of BSM books, and the message that he is going to give us is just like the message of this conference: how can we progress more the BSM? How can we make it more accessible? It's one of the issues. Accessibility of this knowledge is always been one of the barriers to dissemination. So we have a group of people who are going to give our proposals. Ivo is going to come later, and he's going to give us talk to us on the way that he teaches the BSM without using the jargon that is always a problem. And then we have Igor. Where is Igor?
Thank you.
Yeah, with a really exciting proposal on how to rethink the reviewing process. That is a proposal that I think that one of the things we need to discuss on Sunday will be this idea of how to reinvent research with the new technologies, with the knowledge that we have. Really exciting.
A lot of help is not there, so
yeah.
I will ask you for the help.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the idea is to have hopefully some focus groups on something. When we people that are interested in this topic, I will be there. I think that is really exciting, the topic, yeah? And we have talking about, where's Theodora?
Here.
You?
Morning.
Yes, talking about transdisciplinary research and how to link these ideas with other systems approaches. Again, one of the urgent needs that we have to sort of generate this community with other systems and complexity approaches. You know? Peter also is going to be talking a little bit about complexity and BSM.
I will ask for mercy.
Okay. So yes, then is Peter, then we have Mike and all the health people. We have the 3 people that is going to be talking about health, and then we have Trilly that is going to be talking about health, and then we have also who else? Yes, we have also John Lee that is going to be talking about the health and BSM, and then we have Pedro Pablo that is going to be talking about water governance in Brazil. And then we go in the afternoon a little bit more political issues, yeah, which I think is a very welcome in this conference. Is one of the topics that I think that we need to explore. So we have Javier talking on capitalism, socialism, and BSM. Thomas Wong, who is Thomas talking about the anarchism and cybernetics. And John Raymond questioning, criticizing the BSM and asking us the questions that he has about the BSM. Leonie talking about Sri Lanka and connecting the dots. Where is Leonie? Leonie talking about Sri Lanka in the afternoon. and we will end up with the session on spirituality from Javier and Hernan Linas. Yeah? And then tomorrow we will be looking for new ways of relating to each other through technology. So Gary is going to be talking about a really interesting project that is called Planet. Ian is going to be talking about a really exciting, revolutionary, massive, systemic change.
You just gave it the best name ever. I didn't give it that name, you gave it
well, sorry about
that.
Right. That's trying to find a summary. Severin, where is Severin? Severin is going to be talking about the, how do you call it?
DAO, or Decentralized Autonomous Organization.
Very exciting as well. John Chris is going to be talking to us about this new version of Teams Integrity that we are all desperately needing to know about. So really exciting to see their proposal. And Stefan and David talking about the Teams Integrity to help the crew member of Spaceship Earth. Where is David and Stefan, right? Okay. So we have I think, quite an exciting problem, and we have a limitation with the room. Yeah, we will be reviewing this by the end of the morning and see what can be done or what needs to be done. If it's absolutely necessary or convenient, we will split into rooms and we will continue. We will self-organize to do it that way. Yeah. If we manage to come in this group and we are comfy, we will continue doing it just in one. Okay. So that's the idea. Any urgent questions?
Just saying on the afternoon tomorrow, we had this idea that if we could get groups of people together who had similar interests, we might say, okay, well, you're an autonomous unit and you're an autonomous unit, and we wondered if we could think of some way that we could bring people together to create a new whole, something that was viable. But we don't know if there's anybody here who could help with that. So, but we thought we'd try.
Yeah, so tomorrow we'll be just getting into groups and deciding on the future of Metaphorum and how can we push together these ideas as a community. Dave.
Is there a break between each session, the 10 minutes or
yes.
or?
Yes. Between each session, no, we have a break at 10:30 in the morning. Then at 2 hours, I forgot to mention Alena's session, sorry. Alena is doing a game, a BSM game, for those of you who wants to be there. Not everybody has to be there. Their game is being planned at 1:30. So we break for lunch at 1:30. 1:30, Alena will be doing her game, and then for an hour. And then those who want to come can come. Those who doesn't want to come can have a 2 hours break, lunch. Okay. So the idea is that at lunchtime, those who want more meeting time, relaxing, whatever, can be here. For the time being, yes, but we will confirm that after the day.
Oh, and I'd like to mention this.
Yes, please.
Vanilla put together a lot of personal recollections and comments and pictures and drawings of hers, and my concepts are in the back. But I had hoped to have a number of these here and have them delivered to Jan, but it turns out that Amazon couldn't promise to get them here before the middle of November, so I only have 3 that I brought with me. But if anybody wants one, there are 31 euros, which includes the basic thing and the division of shipping.
Okay, thank you, Elena.
Okay, we need to crack on.
Yes, okay, so it's all yours.